close enough. It's like she's here.
Did that in? Yes.
Yeah.
Something like that. I see it. I'll start it. So we're going to call the meeting to order. First item will be the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular council meeting for May 16th, 2018. Following the Pledge of Allegiance, we have approval of the agenda, and council, I got several items on tonight's to remove. The first item is under item 2, consent agenda. The first item A, town council meeting minutes for April 18th. Need to pull that for a little more work. And down under item 4, action items, item number B, that's Rogers recreational facilities rules and regs. We need to pull it, but we also need to continue it. I don't know if it's the time now to pull it off or leave it on there and just do a continuance. He went back to redo the Santa Fe County fire stuff. So those two items there, either pull them or leave that B on there and just do a continuance of it when we get to it.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve this evening's agenda, removing item 2A. And I believe for item 4B, we should have that on the agenda and continue it at the time that it comes up.
That's what I was thinking, in other words, so we don't have to re-advertise it.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
In the consent agenda, I believe that we have announced some public hearings coming up with incorrect dates. Is that right?
That is correct, Councilor Holly. That's another fix on here. Instead of being heard June 6th on G, H, and I, need to change that to June 20th on all three of those.
I'll accept that friendly amendment to my motion.
Motion's been made and seconded, or have we got a second?
Second, okay, second.
Got a motion and a second to amend tonight's agenda slightly by pulling off item 2A, town council meeting minutes for April 18th, and changing the dates on items G, H, and I in the consent agenda to June 20th, 2018. And we will leave on item 4B. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Thank you, council. Next item then we start with is public comment.
Mr. Mayor, I think we have the second item on the agenda.
Yeah, you're right. You come walking up. First, okay, then the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we accept this evening's consent agenda, having omitted item A in the approval of the agenda
And amending those other
and
dates.
making the amendment to the dates.
Got a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve tonight's consent agenda with the caveats of pulling item A and amending those dates to June 20th on G, H, and I. All in favor, say aye.
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 Now we get to the public comment. Tonight, before we take anybody to the podium there on this, we do have a public hearing maybe some of you are here for. If you want to speak to that, save it for the public hearing. Otherwise, we will have public comment, and Leon and Diana both scratched out.
Did I not put the name back again?
Well, yeah, you did down below. Okay, so first up then is Janelle Turner.
Mayor and councilors, I wanted to speak tonight to some of the rumors that have been going around that have come to my attention. At the last meeting, I saw a friend and neighbor that I hadn't seen for several months. She had tried to contact me the 1st of April about these rumors, and I unfortunately was out of pocket and couldn't respond to them. I have asked some of the people who live in my neighborhood more about these things, and I think this is something that needs to be brought to public attention. The first rumor that my neighbor had heard, Mayor, was that you had pushed through the apartments on East Venus in Hillcrest, that you own the land and you stand to benefit. And I just think that we need to state for the record that Unit 2 of Hillcrest is owned by, well, we don't know for sure, but it's not the Bassetts.
That is correct.
Okay. The reason given that you recused yourself was because you recused yourself at the public hearing when they tried to rezone the Unit 2.
Yeah.
They took that as evidence of a conflict of interest, and so I explained to them why you recused yourself. So that John Bassett had given testimony at a prior public hearing and
Right.
before you were elected, and you had to recuse yourself. The other thing that I would like to address without getting in too much into family names and stuff is that before people go around, particularly members of the governing body, talking about who benefits from sewer line extensions, I would suggest that you go to the town office, look at the sewer map that shows the lines, and inspect when and where those things were installed. Okay? Enough said about that. The last two are the more disturbing of them. My neighbor was told that the town is going to build a sewer near the quarry across from the fire station, across from Section 16, and that lines were going to be extended to Big H, and she was going to have to come up with $10,000 up front, and that this was an imminent plan. And Councilor Jaramillo, I am sorry to tell you that you are being attributed with this information. And I know how gossip goes. You know, one person says one thing and it gets twisted around. That is why I think discussions about this should take place at public meetings. And I'm not blaming you, I'm just telling you that you're getting the credit for this information, which you may or may not want to take. The last thing I wanted to cover is the issue of private meetings. There have also been rumors that there are private meetings taking place. Well, without trying to know a lot of that, not everything, but a lot of what's going on in town. The only series of private meetings I am aware of that ever took place were beginning in May of 2012. And that was a meeting, that was a group that was started by the previous Mayor Brad Hill, and he appointed Councilor Sherry Abraham to that group. Now, after this was announced, a former member of the Planning and Zoning Commission asked to attend the meetings, and she asked the mayor directly. This wasn't during the meeting, this was prior to the meeting. She was told that no, these were private meetings. They wanted to be able to speak freely without, fear of public, misrepresenting what they said. As far as I can tell, there were never any minutes for this. And Mr. Mayor, I would like to give you, I have a transcript of that part of the meeting, which was the May 16, 2012 council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. Leon Richter. Thank you.
Can we save our comments for the blasting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Clay Cryer.
Yeah, I'll take mine also for the blasting.
For the blasting? Okay. Does anybody else wish to speak who didn't sign up? Linda?
Sorry, you're here in time to sign up. Just real quick, want to remind everybody about tomorrow's lunch meeting at the Chamber. It'll be specials. It'll be at San Diego Credit Union, and our speaker is Edgewood PD, talking about tips for keeping business property and staff safe. There's been a lot of activity lately, not always the greatest, and so this is a good way for our business owners to know some ideas to keep their property and their staff safe. June 2nd is the Chamber Check Wagon Mixer at Wildlife West. That's over open to members and prospective members as well. It's an evening event on a Saturday night. Full check wagon and lots of other activities, so a great way to do some networking and social mixing. And then Cowboy Days is June 14th to the 30th. 4 key events. We've got an additional 25 activities going on throughout that 2 weeks, all throughout Edgewood. So that's going to involve a lot of businesses, a lot of fun festivities going on, and we hope that the community will participate and support those businesses that are putting all these activities on. That's all I have. Any questions?
Council? Thank you, Linda. Does anybody else wish to speak that didn't sign up here? If not, we'll move along then. Next item is matters from the mayor. I've got a few tonight. First up, we have trash dumpsters. They're going to be available Saturday, May 19th. That's this Saturday from 8 to 5 over at the Edgewood Soccer Field Park. They will accept truck carloads only. Vehicles pulling trailers may be redirected to a landfill or transfer station. They cannot accept freezers, ice makers, tires, large drums, medical waste, paint, asbestos, contaminated soil, household waste, batteries, or railroad ties. That's that one. Another item, we had a couple things since we last met. We had a couple ribbon cuttings. One was on the 3rd up here at Advanced Performance Chiropractic. That's up here, if you go up where Dr. McLeod has the copper covered, got the copper roof on them 3 clinic buildings. The next building over where David Todd had his insurance agency, that's where they're located in there. They've got chiropractic, physical therapy. It's a new business, and if you got aches and pains, they've got saunas and all kinds of machines in there to try to get you feeling better. The other one was a ribbon cutting we went to on May 7th down at East Mountain Medical next to Beehive. That's Dr. Effie Medford. Some of you may recall last fall they opened that, took a dry run at it, ran into some problems. Anyway, she's back. She's got that clinic open again, and it's pretty much a full-service clinic. They can do x-rays there. They've got about 8 exam rooms. It's a pretty nice facility. It's right there on the corner of Quail and Church. Tricor sits here, and they're right north of it there, between that and the Beehive. And that was well attended, and like I say, it's back up going what it was, and it was a pretty good clinic. She's going to try to make a run and go of it. Also, Rita Lloyd's no longer here, so I will tell everybody that we do have a Mountain Valley Cemetery Association annual meeting coming up Monday on the 28th. They'll have the potluck in here. I don't know if any of you have kin buried up there at the cemetery, but it's a once a year get together to discuss the cemetery and what goes on up there, and just kind of take care of a little bit of business. We also got news from the NMDOT that we got approved for a co-op grant to chip seal portions of Horton Road. It'll basically go, council, from frontage road up here, up over the top by the old Montessori, and we're going to try to go to Dinkle, Norton, try to make it all the way out there. That chip seal that's up there now is getting pretty weathered. They're going to try to overlay it and then take it on down around by Rogers and up the other side and see how far it'll go. So look for that to be coming here shortly. We also have election news coming here. Saturday on the 19th, we start early voting and absentee voting. It'll run through June 2nd. They'll be voting 12 noon until 8, Tuesdays through Fridays, and 10 to 6 on Saturdays. This year, it's going to be over at the Edgewood Elementary School Gymnasium on Dinkle Road there, since the fire station out here isn't around anymore, and they were doing it the other one, but this year they've got it marked for Edgewood Elementary School. So you can go in and do your early voting beginning Saturday. And then we've got a list of summer events coming up. We've got Movies in the Park. They will be starting here May 26th, which will be 2 Saturdays out. June 16th, July 28th, and August 18th. And they'll have popcorn giveaway and games. The movies will be at the soccer field park, start at sundown. This year, we're going to have 2 days of the water fun day there that they had at the soccer field again. One will be July 7th. The other one's going to be July 28th. They'll have the water slides, water guns, mud pits, water balloon fights, and free hot dogs. Then in August, we're going to have Run Rally Rock on August 4th. Starts with a parade at 10 a.m., then you have events at Rich Ford, and then the fireworks that evening. They also have Public Safety Day, August 18th at Rich Ford, starting at 10 a.m. You can explore police and fire vehicles, meet Town of Edgewood police and fire crews, watch demonstrations, and eat and play. All events are free. So there's quite a bit of stuff coming up this summer. I encourage you to get out and look into it. The other item we have, and I'll ask Chief Crow to talk to this, Saturday night they had the MMA fights out here at the soccer field. Chief, you want to tell them how that went, what the turnout was like?
Yes, Mayor, Council. So, talking with the promoter, local promoter, it's Jeremy Trimko, and he's out of the Family Fitness Gym there on 344 in Dinkley. It's his first event he's set up here in Edgewood, second event that he's done. He did one in Moerity prior to that. He let me know that he had roughly 450 ticket sales, then roughly 600 total in attendance. So I guess they handed out tickets beforehand, free tickets to families and fighters and friends of the fighters. Out of those 600, we're going to say a little more than half were out of town. We saw a lot of Chavez Fight Club out of the South Valley, fight clubs out of Las Vegas, New Mexico, Santa Fe, and Rio Rancho as well. So it did bring a lot of out-of-town traffic into this event. And the majority of the crowd, just walking around and looking at the majority of the crowd were not from here, which brought business down into the community there. We had one food vendor there. It was the red truck that's usually in front of your property there.
Yeah.
Can't think of his name right offhand. Big B's. There you
Yeah.
go. And he had a line the entire night and just about ran out of food, so he did really well. And then we had the local brewery out of Moerity, the Sierra Blanca Brewery. Same thing, no major incidents, no arrests made, no DWIs later that night. We had a heavy presence there. We had one incident in there, just a verbal argument between 2 women at the end of the fights. We were able to separate them, get them out of there. As far as traffic or anything like that, no major traffic concerns. We had state police, had 2 units patrolling the area, and then I had all 9 Edgewood officers working the event inside the gates. So I think just the heavy presence kind of deterred a lot of that activity. So other than that, went off without a hitch. It was a great event, I thought.
Yeah, I went
no
by
major
there
problems.
about 6:30 or so, and they had the front parking lot was full, and they were spilling over in behind the pavilion there. And I've talked to several people that said, hey, that was a good event. We'd like to see something like that again.
And it was a state, so they had amateur fights at the beginning. They had children's kickboxing, then they did some amateur fights, then they had state-sanctioned fights.
Yeah.
So the state actually came down. We had a little separation between the amateur and the sanctioned fights, but everything went off without a hitch. So
Good deal.
state seemed to enjoy it. They said we had everything in order as they were asking for it, and permits in place.
Yeah. And it went on till like 10 o'clock that evening, so
Yes, sir.
they had the lights set up. One other item we've also got, we found out council was qualified for that hardship sale up at NMDOT, and they've got a little schedule came through there of the day of the sale and what will be involved. You have to show up, and you got like 30 minutes to get out there and look, see if you got anything they have anything you want, and then go back and bid on it. It's pickups and some heavy equipment, so we did qualify for that. That's about all I've got. So let's go ahead and jump ahead to matters from councilors. Councilor Jaramillo.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I did attend the ribbon cutting at the medical center, as several of us did, and I'm excited to see that we have the services here in Edgewood, and I'm thankful that services here are growing over time, and it's much needed for our citizens. I'm thankful also for Ms. Turner. I do like the truth, and so bringing up these things to just let the facts be known, I do appreciate. I was not involved in many of those things that you said. The one thing about the area with the sewer that my knowledge was that the area would be south of Dinkle and east of 344. That's my knowledge, so I don't know what else is being said out there. But with that being said, in my comments here today, I just wanted to officially request again that we take a look at publicly so that these things can be discussed in open meeting and to get the facts out and be able to discuss amongst council and mayor the sewer options, the maps, the engineer's recommendations, the phases, what exactly we're paying for and what recommendations they have, and really just the vision. I'm trying to, just solidify what the vision is long-term.
There's a map back there of the service area.
Okay. Okay, good. So the more, and I think we all agree, the more information we can get out there, the better. I know Carla has mentioned some plans for the website to me as well. So anyway, but I still think it's important to get it on the agenda and so the governing body can discuss. And as well, I had brought up an ordinance for the acceptance of donated property, and for that, Valencia County had a good example, but I'm sure there's many different places that we could borrow from to take a look at that. So those are my two requests for future items. And then just wanted to mention that I've been attending the Municipal Officers Leadership Institute this week. Very good information. Just came back from Santa Fe, and I'll fly back tomorrow morning. But there's a pretty good sized room this year. I heard that last year was only 6 people. But it looks to me like we have maybe 30 or so, maybe a little more. And so good information there as well.
Thank you. Councilor Abraham.
So last week I attended the International Economic Development Conference that was being held in Albuquerque. It's usually held like in Boston or Anchorage, Alaska or something. So it was in Albuquerque. I went to that. It was about marketing and how to get site selectors to look at your community. What do we need to do to even get ready for that process? So it was a really good meeting. It was all day Thursday and all day Friday. I came back with a lot of information, met people from all over the country. That's a few steps ahead of us. One of the things that they did talk about was recruiting retail businesses and entrepreneur businesses. I know that sometimes people think that economic development doesn't include retail, but they seem to think that it did. If we can get the right kind of retail, if we can encourage our small businesses to even hire one more person, and really the entrepreneurs out there, if we can get them to recruit to come to our communities. The other things that I have are, I did have a good meeting with Carla, and she did provide me with some information, and she did say that we're going to start posting some maps and stuff like that, which I'm glad to see and hear. I think it will alleviate some of the gossip and the rumors if there's actually information they can go and look at. Again, that's one of my concerns, is I would like us to have a very clear meeting that's on our agenda to talk about what are the, what are Smith's recommendations, what from HDR, what are the recommendations from the plant, and You know, I think that's just going to be beneficial for everyone if we can get those meetings scheduled. And I had a question about when is the next budget meeting going to be?
There's not going to be one. We've got the resolution on for tonight to approve the interim.
We're not going to discuss the budget anymore?
Well, tonight, when we discuss the resolution there, it's got the handout here, the spreadsheet of the
That we got
stuff that we
handed
worked on.
tonight when we walked into the meeting?
Yeah, those are the
Okay,
changes
again,
that we've made.
I have some concerns that we're receiving these things as we sit down at a meeting. It wasn't even in our packet, which I have a complaint about. So just please register my complaint that I think this should have been in the budget for us to look at, or in the packet for us to look at. And because I had a recommendation, I still believe we need a full-time Parks and Rec person that needs to be included into this budget. And then I'm concerned when I requested that workshop be recorded, and it says in here that I requested that, and still it was not recorded. And so those are my comments for tonight.
Councilor Abrams.
Well, I'm certainly not going to bore everybody with a whole long spiel on anything. I'm just another year older.
Yesterday,
Happy birthday.
right?
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Councilor Holly.
Okay, I would like to remind everyone once again about another free activity being sponsored by the town of Edgewood. Our summer reading program will run on Tuesday mornings at 10:30 from June 5th through July 24th, and that is for children in kindergarten through 6th grade. Registration is going on at this time. It started May 14th, and it will run through June 2nd. So I encourage you to take advantage of this wonderful program that the library offers. And in addition, I want to let you know that at the North Central Regional Transit District meeting, I announced to the group that Edgewood now had an indoor parking space for the Little Blue Bus. We received a round of applause. That bus goes daily from Edgewood to Santa Fe, and it also serves Galisteo, Stanley, Moriarty, as well as El Dorado. But they park overnight. They used to do that in front of the old fire station, but now they can pull in since we've got the remodel finished, and they've got a bay there that they can use overnight and on weekends. So that was much appreciated by the group. That's all.
Thank you, Councilor. Next item is matters from Clerk Treasurer, Mr. Torres.
Mayor and Council, I don't have such great news. Norton discovered that 3 of our 4 lights were out on the eastbound on-ramp. And when he did further investigation, it seems that we've been a victim of copper thieves. So we filed the police report. Norton's getting people out to get us the quotes. We'll file the claim with the insurance. So if you hear the complaint that it's dark or something for the meantime until we can get it fixed, that's kind of the problem we have there. The other thing I have, just want to bring to your attention, is the recycle bins that we have in front of the new town hall. We're going to try, we're having the same problems we had when they were in front of the current town hall. Once they get full, people just keep throwing more and more stuff on the sides when the wind blows. And of course, it's May, so it's blowing everywhere. We even put the larger dumpsters, so we're going to put some more signage up and give people the benefit of the doubt of, you know, if the dumpster's full, please don't dump here. The other problem we're having is people are just throwing trash in there. So,
Instead of just
yeah,
recycling.
if it's just, they stick to that list that's posted out there of just the recyclables, then it actually gets recycled. But if the trash gets in there, it spoils the load, and then they just take that whole load to the landfill. So we're going to put some additional signage up, try it out for maybe another 2 months, and if they can play by the rules, we'll keep it there. But if not, we'll end up terminating that service. I mean, it's unfortunate, but you know, we can't keep paying for litter all over the town. I mean, we're trying to enforce our own, you know, litter and anti-blight, and now we have huge source being generated just because, people don't want to drive, to the transfer station and they just throw it on the ground when they see the dumpsters overflowing. So just want to bring that to your attention as well. And that's all I have for right now.
Okay.
Thanks.
Next item would be action items, and the first one up is a discussion, consideration, action on the recommendations of the Lodgers Tax Board regarding the award of lodger tax funds. Who's
Mr.
gonna
Mayor,
have-
on this particular item, I do not have an actual conflict of interest according to the Governmental Conduct Act, but because of some of the content on the recommendation, I will recuse myself, and as the training suggests, I will leave the room for the discussion and the vote and abstain for voting, and if you guys could just get me back in when you're done.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's a nice night out tonight. Okay, who's gonna, Carla, you gonna handle this one?
Sure, Mayor, Councilors, the Lodgers Tax Board met. We put out an RFP for Lodgers Tax proposals. We got 2 proposals, one from the Greater Edgewood Chamber of Commerce and one from Tony Jaramillo for a car show. They both asked for more money than we had available, and the Lodgers Tax Board kind of split the difference.
Okay.
That's their recommendation after reviewing both proposals. They had a couple of comments and concerns, which we're this is our first Lodgers Tax meeting, so we're working it out with them as well. Lodgers Tax is primarily for putting heads in beds.
Right.
Neither one of these events technically does that. I mean, one of them falls during a really busy time already, Cowboy Days, cinemas are already full. The other one's a one-day event. They felt like they could support both events because it kind of encourages people to stay. In future, they might look at the events a little more harshly, and there's no reason for you to know this, but what the Lodgers Tax Board is looking for, and I'll tell this to the applicants, is they're looking for advertising that brings people to Edgewood who would not normally come here. So those are the kind of events they're looking to support. First-time events, even older events, as long as they're advertising in other markets to bring people here. That's not a concern of yours, but it is a concern of theirs.
Yeah.
These are the recommendations they've made for the $3,000 we had in aggregate to award.
Right.
So they basically decided to recommend to you that they award both events $1,500 each.
You said on the advertising, is that primarily where it would be directed toward, like, what, magazine or newspaper or something?
Radio, print,
Radio?
television, if there was enough money, certainly $3,000 isn't enough, but yes, in future Lodgers Tax Awards, they can use it in all forms of advertising. They can use it to pay for security, and they can use it for sanitation and events.
Okay.
There's also the option to use Lodgers Tax for capital projects that would improve a tourism facility in Edgewood.
Okay.
So if Roger one day wanted to improve the horse arena,
Right.
or if we wanted to make some improvements at the park, he could apply for funding for that.
Okay.
He did not this time. And I'm saying him, but we could apply, the town could apply for funding.
Right, you told me that back there when we set this up, that the town could apply for it.
Correct.
So this is like a June request. What do you anticipate going forward? Quarterly still, or?
No, probably twice a year. I
Okay.
anticipate next year, with the way Lodgers Tax funding is coming in, we'll be able to do 2 RFPs for $10,000 each. Maybe one at the beginning of the year, September or August, maybe.
Yeah.
And one mid-year for the remainder.
Okay. So council?
Yes, this is what they would like you to consider.
Council have any questions for Ms. Salazar? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Excuse me.
I was noticing this on what Linda gave us there. So Junior's got his regular Father's Day show on the 17th, and then follows up with this one on the 4th.
This is the one on the 4th is the one he's asking for funding.
Right. And it'll be over at the
Elementary school.
elementary school, yeah,
Correct.
a little bit different. The other one's still scheduled for Walmart?
It is, yes, and that
Father's
one's
Day.
an established event. He
Right.
didn't ask for funding for that event this time.
Well, I guess I'll give it a shot. Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to accept the Lodgers Tax Board's recommendations for funding to events.
Why don't you go ahead and call them out?
The Edgewood Chamber of Commerce, Cowboy Days, June 14th through 30th, for $1,500. And the Rods and Brews Car Show event on July 4th, 2018 for $1,500.
Got a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the recommendations from the Lodgers Tax Board for 2 events. One with the Edgewood Chamber of Commerce for Cowboy Days, and the other Rods and Brews Car Shows on July 4th, 2018. Let's do this one on a roll call vote. Start on that end. Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
Councilor Abrams?
Aye.
Councilor Holly?
Aye.
Thank you, Council. The next item is the aforementioned item B, which Roger has asked us to, Audrey, get back in there.
I have a question on the one that we just approved. Did the RFP say that it had to be heads in beds, or?
Mayor, council, no, and that's part of the Lodger Tax Board direction, is to start issuing and giving a little bit more guidance as to what they would like to see on the proposals.
Okay.
So the next is item B, the aforementioned, like I said, Roger's request on the recreational facility rules and regs, and basically just a motion to continue it to the 6th of June.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to continue the legislative public hearing discussing and making action on Ordinance 2018-03, the recreational facilities rules and regulations.
Second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to continue the discussion and maybe possible action on ordinance number 2018-03, Town of Edgewood recreational facilities rules and regulations to June 6th. We'll do a roll call vote. Start on this end. Councilor Holly?
Aye.
Councilor Abrams?
Aye.
Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
Councilor Jaramillo?
Aye.
Okay, that brings us up then to item C, public hearing legislative on the Town of Edgewood blasting ordinance number 2018, whatever we put in there. So request certification that public notice of this hearing by the governing body has been posted as required. Michelle?
Yes.
Why don't you go ahead up to the podium there. This is a legislative public hearing called for the purpose of considering adoption of ordinance number 2018 dash whatever we put in there, an ordinance creating a blasting regulation in the Town of Edgewood. Requirements for a legislative procedure differ from quasi-judicial procedures in several important respects. Members of the governing body may conduct their own research into the proposed changes. They may consult with members of the public outside the meeting and may advocate for personal opinions and/or those of constituents. The concern is that this hearing be fair in form and substance, and to that end, all public input and governing body deliberations will primarily consist of remarks about the proposed ordinance. References to historical and/or legal context are appropriate, so long as they are clearly related to items in the proposed ordinance. Furthermore, all discussion will be offered in a manner which is consistent with the Town of Edgewood's adopted resolution for conducting business. All persons wishing to give public input concerning the provisions of the ordinance being considered for adoption tonight are not required to be sworn in, since adoption of an ordinance is a legislative matter. For those of you wishing to give public input, your input should be confined to the issue at hand and limited in length so as to allow for other speakers to comment as well. So, Michelle, if you want to take us through kind of what you've got here.
Well, basically, after we had 7 different meetings, public and otherwise, at the commission level, as well as
a workshop held in December. And what we did is we brought forward one of the main companies, and I'm sorry, I can't ever pronounce the name of it, Kathy Armone.
Yeah.
And she came in and she's met with all of us, and she is one of the experts in the field of the United States and set laws, rules, regulations, that type of thing. Comes in prior and after, and does the before testing and after testing and stuff like that. She works hand in hand with many state agencies as well.
Michelle, really quick, she was going to be here tonight, but she got
Yes.
called away, and she sent...
Are you Brent?
She sent an engineer in her stead. Sandra sent you from New York City.
Yep.
Yeah, come on up.
She was planning on being here tonight, and something
Right.
came away, so she did send Brent, and I wasn't sure
If
who Brent
anybody, in
was.
case anybody had any questions,
Right.
basically.
So basically, we went through this, and we took many different comments and concerns from the public, and we changed the ordinances to fit what they've asked for. It's gone back and forth between Kathy and I. I'll make the changes, I'll send it on to her. She, taking the rough draft and fixed it up and stuff like that. So this is our ending result of all
Right.
this. As you can see, we've got the purpose and stuff, goes through the definitions and all the requirements of general blasting and stuff like that. The main concern I have is I know there's a lot of people that are very hesitant about this going through. They have a lot of concerns and stuff. And it seems to appear that there is a conception that if we stop this ordinance, it stops the blasting. And that is farthest from the truth.
Right.
They have already been legalized, they have permits, they have everything in place, they could be blasting right now. We just cannot regulate it.
Right.
We have no say when they can do it, how they do it, or anything like this. This gives the town the ability to step in and say when they can do it, how they can do it, during what times, during what days, whatever the regulations that we develop for.
And so when you look at it here, like starting with 4.0 on page 3, blasting permit required. We start there, right? Then we have an application process.
Yes.
Goes through all that stuff listed out, A through K. Planning and zoning official will handle that. They will either issue the permit or notice of refusal, right?
Or the refusal, and then of course it goes through the appeal process. If they have been, refused, then it steps out and calls out each process of the appeals, where they would go, how they would have to handle that, and the time limit they have. And then, of course, it goes on to the general blasting and safety plan in section 6, the monitoring plan in section 7, the pre-blast inspections and surveys, all the standards, public notifications. And then, of course, goes into more of the blasting itself, as far as the size, the record keeping, the reports have to be on hand at all times.
Right.
And have to be relatively available if anybody shows up and says, I'd like to see, the report of what you're doing here, and everything, they have to have it on hand. The safety measures that goes in with that, and it should be presented at the time of asking, so it should be on the premises at all times.
And then it gets into the science stuff,
And that's why Brent's here.
right, peak particle velocity.
Because I'll be the first one to say, I just said, yes, ma'am, and put it in, because I have no idea what it is.
And then in number 9, we have the blast report, contain all that stuff. And then you have a seismograph monitoring report. So council, it's fairly simple, but would you like to hear from Brett? Talk about some of the stuff on it, or if you got any questions for Michelle?
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
maybe a question for Michelle. What prompted this originally?
Well, when we annexed, during the last annexation, Bassett Quarries was annexed in with it, and that's why I say they've already been approved to be blasting. They have given us the consideration to try and wait until this goes through. So they have held off on jobs and stuff like that. And from what I understand, they only have enough blasting for one more job.
No, they got about, I think they told us something like about 5 or 6 shots
Five
left, and
blasts,
they'd be
like
done
one
down
job,
there.
and it'll be like a total of 5 blasts. And then the quarry will actually be pretty much closed, correct? I mean, they can haul out gravel and stuff like that.
I'm not gonna speculate on that, but basically, Counselor, what happened, they came in on, as you can see here, they were in the county handled all the regs on that. When we took it in, then we either have to provide some kind of ordinance, or they're free to go. The one we usually tell people is up there, these big tall, tower up there at the top of the hill. Nobody likes that big thing up there, especially in the neighborhood, but there was nothing to say they couldn't do it, so they came in and did it. So you have something to try to regulate it a little bit, and that's what brings us to this. Although, Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, this applies also to any blasting anywhere in the town of Edgewood.
Yes, it will apply to, so if we have construction that's going on, it could be road construction or
Right.
anything like that. Anytime that they're going to be using any type of explosive materials for blasting on any property within the town, we'll have this in place.
I have one question that I'm not seeing in here anywhere, and it just came to mind when you said they're going to be done. How do we regulate how they reforest that or whatever?
Reclamation?
Yeah.
Good question.
Should that be part of this?
Their plans and stuff that they have through the state, because I've seen their plans that they have turned in and stuff, and they do have plans of it, but I can't
Is it-
say for sure exactly
Yeah.
what.
Could we get that in here somewhere?
I don't know
as
if that
to-
would be the
If it
place
goes
for it
here
in
or
blasting
mining
here,
or-
or if that would be like in the landscaping or something. That, yeah, I know what you're talking about. In other words, it'd be like mine reclamation or something. I don't know that this would be the one for it, but that would be something to add to maybe landscaping or grading and drainage stuff. I think grading and drainage, off the top of my head, it may have something in there right now about reclamation.
But I think we still need something in here. If we're going to allow them to blast, I think we need to have something somewhere that talks about how they...
Reclamation?
Yes. I mean, that's the one comment that I...
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Well, since the town really does not regulate mining,
Right.
and the state does regulate mining, and so does the federal government, I think that's outside our purview. Right now, blasting is what's on this ordinance, and I think we ought to focus on that so that our business in the town can proceed, and so that they can finish up with it. I believe that if you check with the federal government's leasing programs for the removal of natural materials from the ground, you will find that the EPA is very, very stringent about the reclamation of mining facilities.
And that is something we could add later if we decide that we need to have it. It's not a bad idea, Counselor.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
maybe the engineer can speak to that.
You're right.
Yeah, could you maybe speak to that as to...
Come up to the microphone.
I'm not familiar with the mining regulation. Yeah, we're more involved with the actual blasting process and not what happens years after the blasting processes.
Okay. Any questions for the engineer on the blasting issues?
I have one other thing here on number 14 on page 8. It says statement of compliance or non-compliance within limits specified in section 7.3. I don't see a 7.3.
Probably should be 7C.
Our formatting has gotten changed a couple of times over, so it's probably just needs to change over.
Doesn't seem to match.
Yeah, it don't seem to...
So I think it would be 7.0 pre-blast inspection survey. Anything else? Brett, if you'd like to get up, I'll give you a couple of questions. And state your name for the record.
My name is Brent Mines. I work for Captain Amy Martin, Amy Martin Associates. We do blasting consulting and vibration monitoring around blasting.
So this blast monitoring plan, who sets that out? The people who get the permit? And would they?
The blasting company or the general contractor.
Okay.
It would be submitted as part of the permit approved application.
Do you have anything, like your company have anything to do with that, or where do you come into play?
Our company is typically a subcontractor
Yeah.
to the general contractor or to the blasting company or to a development agency or a city. We end up in several different levels. But basically, we consult to help them to write monitoring plans, do monitoring, and to consult on blasting practices.
So like the seismograph equipment and stuff, you would bring that out, or? Okay.
And for the blasting that has been done at the Bassett Quarry to date, we have been monitoring every blast there so far.
Do you do the pre-blast inspection surveys? You do that?
We're just doing that today up in White Rock, actually.
Okay.
For a blasting project up there.
And then the peak particle velocity, sound pressure level limits, you do that?
The peak particle velocity limit comes from the U.S. Bureau of Mines study that was done in the 80s.
Okay.
And it's a very conservative limit that establishes a lower bound to any observed cracking in structures from blasting vibrations.
Okay.
And of all the studies that have been done since then, it's been upheld that nothing has ever shown up below that line. It's a combination of peak particle velocity and frequency.
Yeah.
And that's a standard that's used all over the country in ordinances basically everywhere, yeah.
So you do the pre-blast inspection survey, and I guess you would then follow up with the blasting and seismograph monitoring reports after, right?
Yeah,
correct?
we do the monitoring during the blast, and then the report would follow up.
And where would the report go to? To like planning and zoning or something for a public record?
Yeah, according to the ordinance, it's required to be submitted to the city for records.
What about a non-compliance incident report? In 10, it talks about that. So would you be the one that decided if it, I mean, your company be the one that decided if it exceeded the established limits or something like that by your before and after testing?
Yeah, our seismographs, they're calibrated and they show exactly what the vibration limits were recorded during the blast, and that's why part of the reporting process is to show the waveforms exactly as they were recorded. So there's no room to tamper with it or any kind of false reporting. And that goes into the monitoring report at the end, and that's what gets submitted to the city. Yeah. So it's very obvious if the limit that was recorded is above or below the limit established by this ordinance.
And suppose, like Councilor Abraham's saying, that there was a non-compliance incident or something. Is there anything we do to correct that, or? I mean, I'm not seeing it in here, but is that something where you fine them or do something, or?
Well, it says under 10, it says corrective measures taken to prevent similar future occurrences.
Right.
But I don't know what those corrective measures would be.
There can be changes made to the blast design if there's an unforeseen geology or some other type of something that happens, like in one blast, it can be corrected for a subsequent blast.
Yeah.
And so you would kind of provide us those guidelines as to what needed to be changed. And is 24 hours to be submitted to the code enforcement officer? Is that a reasonable time?
Yes.
Okay.
It can be gathered up that fast?
Yeah, I think if there is an exceedance, it's an important event to everybody involved, so it should be reported right away.
Would you say that this ordinance makes our citizens safer than what exists at this time?
Yes, I think it does provide more oversight that's in the control of the city as opposed to the very basic permit that they currently get from the Santa Fe County Fire Department.
Okay. And how is it different? How is the ordinance different? Is it more stringent than what the county has?
Yes. I think the county requirements is only one or two pages, and this involves a lot more, especially with the pre-blast inspection surveys and the reporting aspects that's required. So you as a city will get much more information before the blasting begins, during the permitting process, and after each blast.
Do you anticipate that companies would have issues with this?
No, this is a very standard limits that are set, like I said, throughout the country. It's the same limits that are set in the city of Albuquerque. The distances for notifications and for conducting pre-blast surveys is farther out than it is for Albuquerque. For Albuquerque, it's 500 feet for surveys and 600 feet for notifications. Here, it's 1,200 feet for both. So more surveys will be done and more notifications will go out to property owners around any blasting activity.
Did you speak to property owners around those areas in making your recommendations?
Actually, that was at our meetings that we had, when we had the public meetings and stuff, we had several residents come and they wanted to be included in it, and that meant extending it out to the 1,200
Michelle, get up
feet.
by there so the mic will pick you up.
And that's why we went ahead and extended out to 1,200 feet, where it would cover all of those residents that was wanting to be a part of this.
So you heard from them already at the
Yes.
previous meetings? Yeah.
And we've actually met with the companies as well, the blasting company, the owner of the quarry and stuff like that, so they're well aware of what we're submitting here. And we didn't have any pushback at all from them, so.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? It is a public hearing. Has anybody got any questions for either Michelle or Brett about the stuff they spoke about?
I have a question about the blasting.
Come up to the microphone, sir. Give us your name and who you're with.
Clay Cryer, I'm probably the closest one to it. First, I want to know what distance can a blast be made to a resident, to a road, my house?
I'm sorry, what distance?
What distance, minimum distance of blasting from my house?
There isn't a set distance. Blasting can be done in very close to structures and has been done in Albuquerque and other places. You simply reduce the charge weight to control the vibration levels at the structures that are nearby.
Who will decide that?
The vibration limits that are part of the ordinance governs that. The charge weight will be reduced to make sure that the blasting vibrations stay below its limits.
Okay, I've had those monitors in my yard many times. We've done pre-blasting surveys, and then they've come back, we show them damage, it's been denied every time. I think Travelers was their carrier, and never had any satisfaction, any damage that they've ever done. And the second question I have is, how can I get a copy of this proposed ordinance? That you're reading?
Online, make sure you got a copy.
That's easy.
Well, it should be on the website too, correct?
You want one, Brian?
Yes, please.
They're off the way, so.
Thank you very much.
So the permit will be issued, blasting permit will be issued by the city.
Yes.
We're looking at your safeguards. Who, again, I'm asking, who will be accountable when damage happens to us.
I guess the applicant for the permit.
They carry millions of dollars worth of insurances before they blast. They have to submit a copy of their insurance with them.
Good to know, but like I said, we've been denied more than once. Several times here, our president has been denied. We've had pre-blast surveys, taking pictures, they come back and saw the damage, and then Travelers comes along and says, no, we're not responsible. So we're just trying to get some accountability, somebody that can help us out, either lower the blast so there's not so much damage, which there evidently is, because there's several things, maybe half a dozen that
Sir,
like to travel.
if you'd hold on, you can give your direct testimony here in a little bit. Do you have any other questions for Brett?
Okay, you've already, you've my concern about the size of the blast. And the monitoring. I think that's all.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to question? Go ahead, sir, stand up, give us your name.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. My name is Brian.
And like I say, kind of, not direct testimony, but questions to anything he talked about.
Yes, sir. First of all, your company is a consultant to the contractor, is that correct? To the quarry itself. And you're doing the monitoring for the quarry, is that correct? Okay, and you're also doing the reports afterwards. How are we to be assured that, I noticed that there are non-compliant incident possibilities. How are we to be assured that incidents that are non-compliant will get reported as not being compliant, so that we can do something about that? I mean, right, from where we're literally on the other side of the hill from the quarry, and when the blasts go off, we know it. Okay, so we have our seismic feed, I guess you want to say. You know, we can feel the blast. So how do we know if something is out of compliance? And then more to the, I guess, the council, what is the recourse? What punishment is there if there is a non-compliant incident? Because I don't see any punishments. There's no incentive if there's no punishment. Gentlemen, thank you.
Okay, I'd like to speak.
Hang on.
I talked about that a little bit earlier, in that with this ordinance, the city does get a lot more reporting to it than it does currently under the Santa Fe Fire Department blasting permit that has been in place. So the city will get monitoring reports after each blast, which clearly shows the PPV amplitudes of each monitoring location and how that matches up with the ordinance, that line of PPV and frequency that is established as the limit. And that would be the clear case that it gets reported accurately. And that's why the waveforms are required to be viewed in their entirety at the end of the report. That's why calibration of the seismographs is required. Just to give a little context for the vibration amplitudes, the limit over lower frequencies is 0.75, which is consistent with the U.S. Bureau of Mines findings and all of their studies since then. That level is about 20 times higher than what we can feel as people. I stand next to vibratory rollers and I can watch the seismograph, and I know that I can feel vibrations at about 0.02 inches per second. So the 0.75 is much above that. So anyone nearby will feel some of the vibrations, but it is much less than the threshold necessary to crack plaster or drywall or stucco, any material comprising the structure. That's why the limit is set in place by the Bureau of Mines. That's why that limit is adopted all over the country by cities that have blasting going on within them.
Okay, thank you. Stay up there. Matt, come up to give us your name and address.
Cherie Redzeris, and I live at 56 Skyline, directly behind the party.
Now, first thing is, have you got any questions for him? We'll take direct testimony later if you want to give
The
something.
only thing I want to say is, ask him is, we had numerous incidents, okay? And nobody would be accountable. And we want to know if y'all are blasting, who's going to take care of the problem? I've had injuries to my horse, numerous things happened because going through a fence, and I know, but I'm going through a fence because of blasting, when they were supposed to notify us, they didn't. We've got damage, neighbors next to me have damage, neighbors up on the hill have damage.
Have you got a question for him, though?
I know, that's my question, is who's going to take care of the problems that we're having?
We'll need to get that
We
figured
have
out.
structural damage, neighbors have structural damage. Who's going to take care of the problem? Who's going to pay for it?
I can't speak to a specific incident of damage, but I can say that we have been monitoring every blast to date out there, and it has fallen below the U.S. Bureau of Mines thresholds of PPV and frequency.
Well, my thing is, they should come and sit at my house when my pictures are falling off the wall, my horse is running through the fence, and I have damage on my sidewalk where the cracks are. All I want to know is who's going to take care of it when it happens again, if there's going to be final blast. That's all I want to know.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else got questions for Brett? Go ahead. Come up to the microphone there. Give us your name and address.
I'm her old man. I think I met you once before.
I know a few times.
I'm Don. Yeah, I think I was the irate one that come flying out there in my car anyway, but.
Your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there?
No, sir, what is your name?
Oh, I'm Anthony Red Sears.
Okay.
I'm her old man.
Yeah.
So, anyway, is there any way that we can get them to at least contact us? Can you make them like put together a thing where they'll actually go through and call us?
In the ordinance, there is a notification procedure.
But the thing is, they say they contact us. It's just so we can go out there and hold the horse so the horse can come through the fence. And I've got an automotive clip, I got a car on it. Now, I actually had the fellow I was working on for, we ran out of the building. We thought somebody crashed into the building. The car actually fell crooked on the automotive lift, 9,000-pound lift, bolted to the floor. And, I mean, tools bouncing off the wall, everything. And I think I spoke to you once before, and you guys said that you had your side monitors, whatever, set up out there. Actually, if you take my name, my address, just put one there. If I felt blast, we feel them all the time when they were blasting. Some you just barely feel them, but there was one that got my attention. It got my attention. I really, honestly, truly thought, and just put one of your side monitors. Maybe Clay's house.
Sir?
He may not feel it as much.
So in here in public notification under 8.0, it's got a number of things, written notification. We'll be going out, notify adjacent structure owners and occupants within 1,200 feet of blasting and utility companies within 500 feet, 20 days in advance of blasting operations. Notification shall be sent in writing by USPS certified mail return receipt. Notification shall be sent in writing 5 business days prior to blasting, as well as a verbal confirmation with the Town of Edgewood planning and zoning official or code enforcement officer, Santa Fe County Fire Department, Town of Edgewood Police, Town of Edgewood Administrative. Public notification in the local newspaper will be published twice prior to the blasting date. Signed notifications will be posted 2 days prior and remain posted on the nearest entrance or public access outside of the planned blasting area through the scheduled blast. Does that sound like it's making a reasonable effort to get out the word?
I was just talking about a phone call.
Yeah.
A simple phone call, just, hey, we're going to be blasting here about so-and-so o'clock. You know, I don't get on social media. I don't get on the internet. I don't go out and buy the Edgewood paper. I don't do a lot of that. You know, just a simple phone call or even just a voicemail. Say, hey, if I don't answer the phone, hey, we're going to be blasting about 2:30 or whatever. That's good enough for me.
Okay.
You know, just so I have advance notice. So we can prepare for it.
Okay.
And like I said,
Councilor Abraham.
if they make the same size, they don't make the same size blast all the time, is it? It's like different.
It varies, yeah.
It does? Okay. Hey, if you guys I'd be more than welcome to have you guys, you know, put one of your machines out there. I think you'd be surprised, you know, really.
I know you'd be surprised.
You know, Anyway, thank you.
Thanks.
My other comment is that maybe we can post this to the website and on our sign when those are going to be happening. And then the other thing is, I'm looking in here and I do not see any kind of, I see an appeal for the applicant, but I don't see any kind of an appeal for the residents.
Yeah.
You know, if they're notified it, but have no way to appeal it, that's kind of a moot point.
Brett, did you have something else?
Yeah, about the distances, is that we have had seismographs at several different distances away from it, and so it shows a very clear trend that the vibrations decrease with distance. So that's why we always put the seismograph at the closest structures around any blasting activity.
Matt, do you have any questions for Brett?
I do.
Okay, go ahead and ask him. Not direct testimony. We will give you an opportunity to come up and give your own, speak on your own thing when you want to, but have you got a question for him about what he spoke about?
Yes.
And what's your name and address?
Diane Jordan Casales, Renewing Events. And it's 34B Skyline.
Thank you.
And our house is directly, just as you said, on the other side of that hill.
Yeah.
From the hill. I lived there. I bought it in 2012.
Right.
We got married last year. So I've lived there all this time. I filed a complaint because I had cracks. And I would like to give further testimony other than a question.
Right, but
But I had cracks and other things, and the lady came out and she wanted me to show her around and everything. I showed her all the problems. A major problem was that it shook so violently that my wood stove and the pipe, which goes up through the roof, it has a metal roof due to a previous blasting. There was now a metal roof, and it had shaken so bad, the house, that there was no, you know how you have the metal pipe, and it's sealed around there? It completely broke loose from all of that. And she said, I'm sorry, I've had 2 strokes and I don't remember.
I understand.
Right, but she said, oh, well, you can just get somebody to seal that right back up. No mention of the fact that not long after that blast, we had a rainstorm and had flooding in my house. You know, it's frustrating, very frustrating. Other than a comment later, that's all the questions I have.
Thank you.
Why didn't somebody have more compassion or understanding or take accountability for what happened in my house?
Thank you.
Just a comment, but what you're saying is this is a much more stringent permit process than what they had to go through previously, correct?
Yes. The vibration levels, the limits are the same thresholds, but the permitting process is much more stringent and the reporting process is much more stringent.
Okay, so even though it's a more stringent process and the levels are still the same, how can we, well, maybe I don't have a comment. I don't even know where to go with this.
Mr. Mayor, if I may?
Yes, sir.
With the reporting process and the vibration levels being the same, if there's an out-of-compliance report, to your experience, would that constitute a reasonable bit of evidence for an insurance company to commit resources to repairing damage?
I don't know. I don't think I can say what an insurance company
Yeah,
will do
yeah.
for it. They're
Okay.
very but the vibration threshold line is a line of 100% confidence where no cracking or damage has ever been scientifically reported or documented below that line. So when the readings are below that, the science says that you can confidently say that damage will not be possible. If a reading is above that, that means that damage is theoretically possible, not necessarily 100% guaranteed.
Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
I do have a couple of questions. First, what you just said is not logical with the reality of what I'm hearing here.
Right.
That makes no sense at all. So scientifically or not, I believe the people here. I believe what they're saying did happen, and I believe it was because of the blasting. So something needs to be done about that.
Yeah.
Secondly, I did want to know if this within 1,200 feet, are these property owners, you don't maybe know them all, but are they within the 1,200 feet? Are they going to be notified? Or are you guys further out? I mean, maybe you don't know,
The
but.
ordinance calls for notifications by mail, certified mail, and regular mail to everyone within 1,200 feet, as well as notifying the city and posting in paper, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, it would be important for us to know, I guess, that if these addresses of what we hear tonight are within the 1,200 feet or not, because obviously they're being impacted, so we may need to extend that field.
Michelle, you said that you talked to these people at your,
The ones that were at the public meetings,
and,
yes, ma'am.
and are those some of the people here? Okay. So you don't really know if 1,200,
I
if
don't
these
know if
people
they're
live
within
within
those-
12, okay.
And that measurement or not, no.
And Michelle, I know that you did say you didn't understand this, that the consultant had recommended this, so did we have someone within the town staff take a second look, or the attorney, or?
Look, I've talked to his boss herself and stuff, and we work hand in hand. Now, I know it was asked, so if they're brought in by the quarry, how do we know? Well, the thing is they are regulated to have a consultant group on there to do the pre-test and the after-test and all of that. It's not like they're in the back pocket waiting back to say, oh, they were conforming. That wasn't it. It is more of the fact that they are regulated and we have to have this company. Now, I researched when I reached out to Kathy initially, and no matter wherever you type into the internet and trying to find anybody who is experts in this field, this company's name came up over and over again. And that's why I asked for their help. No, we don't have any mining or blasting. I have talked to other departments. I have talked to other companies. I've talked to several that have blasters on hand and staff in construction sites. They all recommended Kathy and them as well. I have sat down with them and had them read over this, and they said that I was asking for a lot, and that was coming from the construction companies that would have to abide by this. He said now they have told me that they would go by it, but that I am asking a lot compared to what they normally have to do. As far as the size and stuff, basically we are at the lowest level to where what size they can blast and so forth. I mean, we discussed this about going lower, but the level that it is at, from what I've been shown and explained to and went through these meetings, this is at a limit where, yes, you're going to feel it, and my terminology is going to be way off, so you'll have to help me there. When the blast and stuff goes off, you're going to feel it, and that's, of course, the movement of the air and everything else as it goes through, but a house is built to sustain that, and it's not supposed to. And I mean, I understand that you guys have had damage, so the little in the backgrounds and stuff, I understand, and I feel for you. But without this ordinance, we have no control. They can just go in and blast. We can't say what size. We can't say don't do it at midnight. We don't have any of that control. It's not that I'm trying to get your house a blast off and everything else. This company has been in business for 30 plus years probably. A lot of you here have actually bought property from him knowing that it's blasting.
This is not to damage our community. We're trying to regulate our community. We want to be able to say, no, you're not going to do this because it's not good for our community.
Thank you, Michelle. Brett, I think we're gonna, you have a question?
Yes, sir.
Come up to the microphone there for Brett. Otherwise, I think we want to get to the directed testimony from the neighbors.
Janelle Turner. I wanted to kind of play off of what Councilor Jaramillo asked. It sounds to me like people who shouldn't be having damage are reporting that they've had damage. And I know you said that you use these standards all over the United States. Do you look at geological fault lines when you do these models? Are we looking at a fault line that is transferring energy in an undesirable way? Is that a possibility?
Like I said, we've been monitoring this quarry for a long time, and we've established an attenuation model that shows how the vibrations die away with distance the farther from the blast you get. And with all the data that we've collected, it all falls into that line. So there isn't anything anomalous that we see.
Okay, thank you. That answers it.
You have a question for Brett?
I have a question. I'm Diana Richter at 2042 Old 66, directly to the west of the pit. Who does the post-blast survey? We've had many pre-blast surveys done, but no post-blast survey done. One of the last blasts that almost everybody has spoken about, I think it was December of 2015, we had just installed new cabinets. And with the blast, where the vibration came through the house, it took part of the cabinets, separated them from the roof. I won't say drywall, I don't know what it is, separated the cabinet from the roof. Both sides of the kitchen traveled through to a bedroom and separated the drywall up at the top. That insurance claim was denied. We never had a post-blast survey, never able to get in touch with, I believe it was Mountain States at the time. The insurance adjuster that came out admitted that he had never seen blasting damage and was not familiar with it, so really wasn't sure what he was seeing. Now, you say your vibration showed there was not enough vibration, I guess, to cause the damage. Something happened. It was not damaged before. After the blast, it was damaged. We did have our cabinet guy come back, and he stated he had never seen anything like that. So you say this, we live that. The question, I guess, is who does a post-blast survey after damage has been done? Because we haven't seen Kathy or yourself come back and do that.
Yeah, but that's a good point. In the ordinance, it talks a lot about the pre-blast surveys and the guidelines for that. But as you talked about earlier, there isn't a section for community
post-blast
inspections or community recourse. So that is something the city keeps considered.
I have it written down where I can add that in.
Yeah. I have a question because you talked about the corrective measures to be taken to prevent similar future occurrences. Okay, so they're saying they had occurrences, and your remark to that was you would lower the blasting.
The charge.
The charge. So, as part of this, since we're saying even though we weren't in control of this last event, some corrective measures to be taken may be to start at a lower charge? Or is that possible? Since you said that was one of your corrective actions, was to lower the charge.
Yeah, that is if there is a non-compliance with the ordinance, and that would be based on the vibration limits that are set in the ordinance.
So what if we set the limits lower in this ordinance?
That's entirely up to the decision of the city and the council.
Okay.
Like I said, this limit is set all over the country based on Bureau of Mines research. It is also set in the city of Albuquerque and several other cities.
That's the post 0.75?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But we're clearly seeing that is causing some problems with our residents, and in the past that wasn't our problem, but now it will be.
I think they follow the USBM also.
Council have any other questions? Otherwise, let's get on to the direct testimony from the neighbors. Thank you, Brett.
Yes, thank you.
Anybody want to give direct testimony?
Or we can, I don't know if you want to hear direct testimony, or do you want to continue this till the next meeting where I can add in the penalty and sections that
Yeah, but let's go
obviously
ahead
did
and give
not
some
make
people
on
some
that?
opportunity to give us some direct testimony tonight.
Yes.
Hang on a second.
Okay.
Now, go ahead. State your name again.
By the way, thank you very much for listening to us. My name is Diane Doherty, and I moved into this house from out of state in 2012. When I first moved in, I noticed this humongous skylight in the dining room. And I thought, that's unusual. In talking with the owner at that time about this skylight, he confessed that the quarry had shot a boulder so big through his roof, it crashed down through the roof into the dining room floor.
You got his house, huh?
Yes, it was his house at that time.
We've heard it in lore, but haven't met anybody that actually was in it.
Yeah, oh, I wish I'd seen that. He did not mention, however, that one of the 3 sheds that he owned had, I'm not lying, it has a hole that big in the back of the shed from another boulder that came through the shed. That's how close my house is to where this blasting is going on. When, I don't remember the year, I'm sorry, but it wasn't all that long ago. I was sitting on my sofa with my 2 dogs. I had no previous warning, none. Okay. I will admit there were times they did warn us or me, but there was no previous warning. I'm sitting on the sofa, and there was usually the blasting went boom, 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 like that. This blasting went, it was hellacious. It was boom, it was huge. The windows shook, my feet came off the floor, my dogs were running around barking, trying to find who's getting in the house. You know, that particular blasting was what caused the chimney thing to come apart. I called my insurance company. They came out. After much arguing with them, they came out and they looked at where the floor and the wall had separated. They looked at the cracks in the walls. They looked at the chimney separation and everything, and they said, well, we can't, and this is a good insurance company, we can't do anything for you. This is an act of God. That's what they got, an act of God. So,
it's awful.
I was grateful when they notified me that there was going to be a blasting. But when it comes out of the blue, and when I have a neighbor who's not here tonight, my neighbor, he has a 2-story, his windows were broken. They were broken. Fortunately, mine held together. The snakes, the rattlesnakes, because I'm right on the other side of that hill. You can see the rim where they've stopped blasting. There's a slight little hill up against my backyard. The snakes, because they're just disrupted so badly, so close, come right down into my yard. They've even bitten my animals. Yes. A vet bill, yes. Almost lost her. So, if they're going to blast, fine. I want to know about it. I want it to be within legal limits. This can't possibly be within legal limits. Because if a council member or somebody else lived in my home, they would be just like me standing up here complaining. You know, it's not right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, let's go next. Give us your name again.
Cherie Redziris. I want to explain one thing. I do not want to put anybody out of business. I've been out here almost 30 years. I have no intention of trying to cause somebody dismay because of all of our infractions, whatever. But all I want to do is know that if something, God forbid, if that lift had thrown that truck off and it killed my husband, who's going to be responsible? That's all I want to know. I have seen when I have been there when they've called, because I had a horse, which I lost last week, 1 week ago today. But anyway, I have been there when they called. They inform us. But there's been more times they haven't called, and I have been in the situation where I was asleep at one time, and all the pictures in my living room on the west side, which would be close to the quarry, fell off onto the floor. I was woke up from a dead sleep, and it scared the living hell out of me. I'm not going to lie about it. And that was the same time that he was up there, and his customers wondering what is going on. We have to be responsible for our actions. That's all I want. Insurance is not going to pay for something that's supposedly been authorized. But all I want to say is all these people in this room have had some kind of incident, and there's actually 3 more. 2 of them right now are at work because I've already talked to them, and they would have been here. But those 2 people had massive problems with their house after this. So walls separating, cement, cracks, etc. All I want is somebody to say they're going to be responsible if something, God forbid, happens. Seriously. That's all I want. I'm not trying to put anybody out of business. I've been out here too long. I've been out here since 344 was dirt. Okay? But my point is somebody needs to be responsible.
Thank you.
That's all I've got to say.
Leon, you've been sitting back there.
Leon Richter, 2042 Highway 333. Thank you, council members, mayor. Great respect for what you all do. I do have one question in the beginning for the mayor, with due respect. If there is a vote, if you would recuse yourself, because you are first cousin to, I believe, to the landowner, which is here? Or?
This doesn't just involve them, it's the whole thing there, and we're going to try to work out
Okay.
Just an ordinance is a legislative, it's not a quasi-judicial.
I didn't know, that's why I asked,
Yeah.
with great respect. So what we've heard here today, quality of life. And no matter what those seismographs say, and this might be that, and I'm within the limits, why am I hearing all this stuff? There's something wrong. There is something terribly wrong. And thinking, well, we're the only ones complaining, and here I hear this person has this complaint and this. Quality of life. I want to go to the purpose and scope, the second paragraph on the blasting ordinance. Blasting shall be conducted. Shall. That means it will be. In the court of law, when that word is used, shall, it will be executed in a manner to prevent damage to persons and to public or private property outside the permit area. It has not been done in my scope of living there for how many years? All of us. It has not been accomplished. I think we're getting the horse or the buggy in front of the horse or the animals. What about an air quality permit? And you're going to see some photographs here of dust. We need an air quality permit. Has that been approved? And has anyone talked about an environmental impact study with what I'm hearing here? Has anybody, is this important or isn't it? And maybe it's okay to blast in this city. Has other cities in the country, do they have a blasting? Is that the norm? Is a study done? Okay. Back to the blast monitoring plan 6.0 on page 5. You have a scale plan showing a total number and locations of seismograph during blasting operations within 700 feet. That's going to exclude our place. Why is that number 700? Why can't it be If someone has a problem, whatever the limit may be. I mean, I'm not saying 5 miles away, but if they're being affected, why does it have to be 700 feet? Page 6, 7.0 pre-blast inspection surveys. It says that a person who conducted the survey shall sign the written report. Copies of the report shall be promptly provided to the planning and zoning. I hope this isn't made public record. I don't want people going to the town and saying, I want to see so-and-so's home, because, well, we've got their pictures, here it is, let's go from room to room. Does that, any questions? Violation of privacy. It's paragraph D. And 9.1, page 7, 9.1, paragraph 5, wind direction of the blast. There's no miles per hour when wind. In the past 25 years, my business has never affected anything done at the quarry. But countless times, that quarry has affected my business because dust has not been under control. Why is that? And there's no monitoring. Oh, we don't have the staff. Why is it I have to be affected by someone that's not doing their job? I don't have manpower, whatever it might be. Page 8, 10.0, non-compliant incident report, corrective measures taken to prevent similar future occurrences. Man, we've talked about this, I've heard it all night. You know, a man shared something with me, and maybe I can share it very quick. He's a referee at a soccer game, and he gets the captains up there, and here's what he tells them right from the beginning. He said, this is pregame, this is your warning. There's no more warnings, there's red cards. We're done. You know, that's how we as a community feel that live there. There's no more warnings. Oh, what are we going to do to correct this measure? What do you mean? No, place a fine, a hefty fine, when it's not complied with from the start. No warnings. Up front, you will know you are expected to do this, and there's no room for error. The warnings are out of the way. If you don't have the manpower to monitor it, why are we doing this? Back to the planning and zoning. I got to partake in a few meetings, and I thought it was great. And just, I don't know a whole lot about any of this. But I beg those members to go around to the household members and homeowners to talk to those people about what is your concern, what is yours. No, we won't do that. They know there's a meeting here, they can come here. Yeah, that's the kind of community that we're trying to encourage. What? I just couldn't believe it. If you're so concerned, why can those, I mean, I live here, I want to help. It's beyond me. I was the only one at those meetings. No one else was here. Why weren't those council members going to talk to those people that have complaints? Make a point. And if there is an issue, who do we contact at the town? The blaster? Dust control, air quality permit. Where's the air quality permit before we're... Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Leon. Diana?
Diana Richter, 2042 Old, US 66. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Michelle. I know you probably feel physically attacked, and we don't mean it that way. So, and I'll try not to get emotional. A little bit of history. In 1991, we moved into our home, and in 1995, Western Mobile came along with their book of being a good neighbor and what they were going to do, and went into the pit, said lots of things, didn't always do them. And the one thing that we have struggled with over the years with Santa Fe County and the EPA and air quality is that they don't have the staff to monitor what has happened down here. They can't monitor the dust, they can't monitor the truck, it's just on and on. And so we're stuck with, here we are and there's no help. So We're glad to be in the town. This ordinance is fantastic, and it's like the lady over here said, we feel the same way. We're not here to put the Bassetts out of business. They have a right to run their business in their pit. They do not have a right to affect our business, our quality of life, dust issues, on and on and on. I have a prepared thing. I'm not even going to share it. I think enough has been said. We have suffered damage throughout the years, broken windows, things knocked off of shelves, cracking in the drywall, and yet we're hearing that's not possible. Something has happened. I don't know. The rock that was put through Diane's home, apparently a cavern, when they blasted, they didn't realize there was a cavern, and that's caused the rock to shoot. I don't know anything about the blasting. I just know the results that we have felt. It's earth-shattering, nerve-wracking. It is tremendous when there is a blast. And if any of you have ever experienced it, I don't know, yes or no, we brought just pictures. You can't feel the effect, but you can see the blast, and you can see the dust. And you know, sometimes it's coming our direction, we're covered in dust, sometimes it goes to the other neighbors. But let's just see it. And these are just pictures over the years. Let's see if this will. Yeah. And is that, yeah, that's not a line, we do a full.
There, that one's better.
Okay. This was one of the blasts, the most recent, probably December.
Sir, let her talk.
Mr. Cryer's house would be just up on the top ridge. So again, just lots of dust. This would be to the east. And that's all I have, so thank you. Thank you so much for your efforts, your time. It's appreciated, and thank you. Special thanks.
Yes, sir.
Brian Doherty, 35B Skyline. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you again to the council members. On page, put my glasses on here. On page 6, we talk about peak particle velocity and sound pressure limits. I don't see anything in here that would require the blasting company to use a blasting mat. Are we familiar with the concept of a blasting mat? It's a very large woven steel mat that has tires woven into it, old beat up tires woven into it, and it contains the ejecta from a blast. I'm very, very concerned from a safety angle here that we have, as Diane mentioned, boulders flying through the air. Inadvertent, I'm sure. I'm absolutely positive that the blasters did not intend to have boulders flying through the air onto the other side of their quarry. It's not good for their business, and it loses some of their product that they're trying to do. So I understand that that's inadvertent, but the use of a blasting mat, a requirement of a blasting mat, would certainly help ease our fears about living that close. And I would recommend, I laud the idea of the ordinance and the city taking control more closely and to make it more local instead of just being out of Santa Fe and all that. So if we could put something like that in there, that would be a real help for us. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak?
I have one more question I forgot. Can I ask it? The 1,200 feet that's mentioned in the ordinance, is it from the blast site or from the property line?
So we were just looking at that.
Okay.
Whether or not it's property line.
Right.
It's a blast site. 500 feet of the blasting perimeter, 1,200 feet of the blasting. Probably could dial that in a little bit better.
Okay. And then one more thing on the reclamation plan, mining versus sand and gravel. We have found that federal law does not really regulate sand and gravel operations like it does mining, so that reclamation is pretty important to get put in an ordinance somehow, somewhere. The one thing that's in the book that Western Mobile gave us is that it would be reclaimed when they were done with their operation. Well, they've been gone many years and several tenants since then, and no reclamation has been done, so that is important.
Thank you, Diana. Anybody else like to speak? So basically, Council, I think what we've heard tonight is quite a few comments from the neighbors. This is the biggest turnout of neighbors that I've seen. We've got some pretty good comments here, stuff to look at. We will look at, see if we can get some stuff put in here that addresses some of that. Council, do you have any comments or insights?
Well, I think, one of the other things I didn't see any in here anywhere was dust control.
Yeah, that was what we were working on that mining thing for
Yeah,
the
but I
zoning
think,
ordinance.
right, but I think blasting, we also need to address it. And I still think, because if this company shuts down, then the town is going to be left with that reclamation and, I don't feel like that's our responsibility. So I do believe in here somewhere, we may have it other places, but I think it needs to be in here addressed as one of the requirements of their permit, is when they're done, they make it beautiful again, or at least as beautiful as it can be.
Yeah.
I would like to see more information on the consequences, I guess, of non-compliance. Michelle said that she wrote some things down, so I would like to see that. Maybe take a look at that. And then, I know many of these people personally, and, I believe you, and your complaints are valid. And I don't put as much stock in a scientific study nationwide as I do your testimonies. And so thank you for being here tonight. I really, really appreciate that. It takes you all being here and reaching out to us. Leon and Diana did as well to me personally. Thank you. In order for us to make good decisions. And so this is how good government works. So I would like to see maybe the distance extended from 1,200 to make sure that we have all the residences covered for notices. And then as well, take a look at decreasing not sure what to call it, but
The shots.
yes,
Charge, yeah. Blast shots.
the allowable level perhaps would help.
An appeal process, and not just a pre-blast inspection survey, but a post-blast inspection that maybe involves the neighbors.
Yep, I got that wrote down.
And then legally, there is the question that, John and Sri are bringing up, that, who is responsible if something does go wrong, even if insurance is saying no. So I don't know legally if the ordinance can hold the companies accountable or not, but I'm curious about that too.
So, I don't think we need to take anything tonight, just, we will go to work on it, and when we have something else, we'll try to get back together, show you what we've come up with.
Mr. Mayor, before I make a motion, I'd like to say a couple of things. According to the definitions, page 2, the bottom of the page, pretty definite. The person who is responsible for the operation at a mine pit or quarry or construction site where blasting activity occurs would be the operator. That would be the responsible party. Unfortunately, I don't see any teeth in here.
Right.
At this point. We need to have some teeth. Because who is going to hold the operator responsible?
Right.
Seismic monitoring is one thing, science is one thing, geology, geography, all of these things come together to make all of this stuff happen one way or another.
Yeah.
Bottom line, though, is it's the insurance companies who don't want to pay claims. That's where we're at, okay? And it's in the mining operation or the sand and gravel operation or whoever's doing the blasting, it's in their best interest to not have a claim filed against their insurance. Keeps their insurance less expensive. So we've got some imbalance here. So in this ordinance, we have to come up with something that will hold that balance. So I would very much like to see what the teeth are going to be. I also have a little bit of problem with the use of general data for safe levels of anything. I go back to the NTSB and the safe, the need for seatbelts and all of the stuff that happened in the 60s with how this was not really required. And the industry was saying one thing and the safety experts saying something else. So no disparagement intended, but I would like to see, personally, I would like to see what the geology looks like. I would like to see what the real seismic wavelengths look like. I've seen seismographs before. I know how they operate. And yes, it would be a very good thing to have seismographs placed at regular lengths at a distance from the center of the blast to really get that. And I'm sure you've done that already. I'm sure that those have been there. I'm sure you've got those records. They have to be kept for one reason or another. But to be able to see, is there really, I believe you, that there's a linear drop. Yes, there would be in a wavelength. But if there's geology, if there's hard rock that's going to transfer that signal much more strongly in one area than there is another, and you don't have a seismograph there, how do we know?
Amen.
Okay? So, it's great, it's wonderful, it's fine, it's fantastic. I think this is a step in the right direction, and I would move, Mr. Mayor, that we table this at this particular time until the meeting of June, where is it? June.
We won't have anything ready by then, I don't think.
We won't have anything ready? Well, I would like to table it to a time certain. Right.
Councilor Abraham, really quick, in the 2 meetings in June, there's already 4 or 5 public meetings in each one.
That's true, we do have quite a few.
Yeah.
So we have to,
What kind of time frame do you think you
Mayor,
could get us
Council,
resolutions?
If I may really quick, just keep in mind, the longer we don't have an ordinance, the longer it's kind of open season for doing it, so.
well, we could, I can do this to you, I hate to do this to you.
I can get it done within 5 years.
Well, the first meeting in June is June 6th.
You have
July,
5
first meeting
possible
July.
public meetings on June 6th.
We
On the
have-
schedule already, you have 5 possible public hearings on June 6th.
That's going to be one heck of a long meeting.
And we have several already for the 20th.
Maybe we need an additional meeting scheduled.
Maybe the first meeting of July?
Well, the
Anybody-
difference is-
Anybody disagree with the first meeting in July?
No.
You can get that?
Then I would move that we table this discussion and continue it, the first meeting in July, hopefully seeing some progress on some
I take that back. I think nobody will be here around the 4th of July. So maybe the
Yeah,
second
that's
meeting
another
of July.
topic, is figuring out that first meeting in July.
Well, we
But
probably
we'll
ought
get
to do
that.
that a little bit later down the road. I think we need to move on.
We may need to just reschedule the first meeting in July or have something on a Saturday.
Yeah, we will. I mean, we're gonna have to, nobody will be here on the 4th proposed anyway that day, so.
Continue to,
The first meeting in July,
Yeah.
whenever we decide that that should be.
Got a second?
second.
Motion's been made and seconded to table ordinance number 2018, whatever, an ordinance creating blasting regulation until the first meeting of July, which is yet to be determined, but we'll have that when we finish up. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, so we will work on this and try to get up something that we can bring back to you all to look at and take it from there. Thank you, everybody.
I have a question. How did you guys hear about this meeting? Just in general?
The marquee.
Okay,
Way cool.
thank you.
It works.
Next item on there is discussion, consideration, action on resolution 2018-09, Town of Edgewood, 2018-19 interim budget. Mr. Torres.
Mayor, Council, so the resolution before you, I guess looking back, this is the first time that we'll actually approve the interim budget by resolution, just to get it up to Santa Fe. I handed out the sheet, and I do apologize, just didn't have it done in time for the packet. That's why it came out as a handout. So on the finance recommended column, that is where I had put all the changes that were requested by council at the budget hearing, and that is a permanent part-time court clerk, a permanent part-time janitor, a full-time IT employee, a full-time police officer, and a full-time admin assistant. It does also include a 2% raise for employees, and the town picking up 20% of everyone but the police department's para, because the town's currently already picking up 60% of theirs. And then it also does add an additional 20,000 into planning and zoning for the clean and lean
that we talked about.
That it was discussed. As you can see, with this as interim budget, the general fund revenue is proposed bringing in $4,065,403. The expenditures going out, $4,066,932. So that will have us, if we spend all of it, which I doubt, but if we did, that would have us spending $1,500 of our additional funds for this.
Yeah. That covers those extra hires and the clean and lean. Yeah.
I had requested a full-time employee for Parks and Rec. I don't see that in here anywhere.
Well, we talked about it that day with Roger, and basically come up with, not ready for it yet.
We did.
When I discussed it, he seemed more than ready for it.
Mayor, a comment on that. It was a very positive thing to have the administrative assistant that could write grants and perhaps do other things to assist Roger. I do agree it's a very important position and a lot of things to get done, and I'm really hoping that with the administrative assistant that can relieve some of Roger's burden, and then look toward next year for a full-time person dedicated to that. to where he could still be director, since he doesn't want to be full-time.
Right.
I think that would be great. We have a lot of really good things going on, and I appreciate that you read off the summer events, and he's been so good to, give us the maps and all the details of the trails and plans that they have. I think he's doing a really good job, and we don't want to, slow that down. But maybe, this position could help him get grants and funding as well.
Yep. Like we talked, that would be, pretty much all of us thought that wasn't a bad idea to have a full-time grant writer or something like that in an administrative assistant. So that's kind of where we're headed with it. Anyway, this is just for the interim to get it up there.
Is this on the website? Has the public seen this at all? Since we were handed this tonight?
Mayor, council, once you approve it, I will put it up.
I'm not ready to approve it without more public participation. That's my thought.
Mr. Mayor, I might remind council that we do have a deadline.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve Resolution 2018-09, a resolution adopting the Town of Edgewood interim budget for fiscal year 2018-2019.
We got a second?
I'll second.
Two of them. Motion's been made and seconded twice to adopt resolution number 2018-09, a resolution adopting the Town of Edgewood interim budget for fiscal year 2018-2019. We'll do a roll call vote starting on that end. Councilor Jaramillo?
Discussion first, Mayor.
Sure.
Just two other things coming to mind that I believe are important for roads. I believe we really, even though we couldn't pay for it at this time, we really need the water truck to help with operations on that. And then as well, some items for the library for the kids. I think those things can be done as well. So there were a number of requests that I think will be added in as funds become available, or that we can collaborate with other governmental entities with surplus property, or whatever that may be. But those are my comments on that. Any other discussion?
If not, roll call
Aye.
vote. Councilor Abram?
Nay.
Councilor Abrams?
Aye.
Councilor Holly?
Aye.
Thank you, council. Announcements and calendar review. Next regular will be June 6th. We've got the public hearing on the procurement code, public hearing on a couple zone changes.
And Rogers.
And what's that?
Recreation.
Oh, yeah, Rogers, yeah, we had that back there. Put him over here. That brings us then also to that question on July. And what's your preference, council? First one is the 4th. Want to do it on the 3rd?
No. I'm not. Sorry, I'm not.
Sorry about that, Councilor Salazar.
I was just thinking about a whole week.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a suggestion that we shift the, well, no, that won't do, will it? Because then we'll have 2 in a row.
And I'm gone the week of the 9th.
So, well,
The 3rd would work for me.
What will be here? It's good.
Oh, you won't be, no. Geez, I don't know if we can go without you.
so we shift it to the 3rd for 1 week and then the 18th.
The 18th.
No, doesn't matter to me. I think that'll work.
Councilor Holly, do you have any opinion on that?
July 3rd works for me.
Audrey?
I won't be here end of July, unfortunately.
July 3rd?
July 3rd works. I thought I heard the 18th.
Well, the 18th is the second meeting in July.
Okay, that one I'll probably have to miss.
July
But the
3rd?
third. The
The
third
third
will
works.
work.
Okay.
Same time?
Same time, same place. Well, I don't know about the place. Let's don't get into that.
Same bad time, same bad station.
June 20th, the first ICIP.
Yes. Council, we will probably also be going with the first ICIP discussion on June 20th. And have one in July and again in August to get it in there in time for
And Mayor and Council, trying to have the ICIP a little bit earlier this year, we don't have to have our final result, but if we can at least kind of get maybe our top priority. I know I've been working with the county, and we had talked about possibly giving them one of our priorities to put on theirs, but they do theirs a little bit earlier than ours, so if we can kind of figure out like a top priority and let them know, here's what we would like, so they could do one of those in support of on their ICIP items as well for us.
That helps.
So that's why we're trying to start the process early on. We don't have to have the final decision until the August deadline, but at least starting it now in June.
So that's what we're looking at. Meet on the 3rd, and then the ICIP begin started here in June. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mayor, one other item, calendar. Juan, just wondering about the audit recommendation for IPA.
Mayor and Council, so just because of the timeliness, we went with Harshwell again. We were on year 2, or we're starting year 2 of the 3-year contract. Next year, we can definitely go out to bid again and get that completed.
The scope is different. So that was my concern as far as the capper. The scope of the services being different.
I didn't discuss that with him, but we can definitely amend and discuss.
Okay.
You got a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Motion's been made, seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Councilor Holly. What time?
8:37.